When Disney decided to make all the Star Wars expanded universe non-canon, or unofficial story, fans were outraged. There were decades of stories, and it seemed Disney and Lucasfilm were discarding all of them. All novels that were written before the Disney purchase of Star Wars were being deemed as legends, and the new brand was starting over. Within the expanded universe, or Legends as it is now called, one character was being put into that category. The character that revived Star Wars in the early 1990s. That character was none other than Grand Admiral Thrawn. However, a couple years later, there he was, introduced in the animated series Star Wars Rebels. The Chiss Imperial Grand Admiral, made famous by Timothy Zahn's heir to the Empire, was back. He was just as cold and calculating as his original story, but he had some troubles, in the form of a small rebel cell. Among them was Ezra Bridger, a Jedi in training. The last time we see Thrawn, he and Ezra are taken into hyperspace by space whale squids called Purrgil. All from Ezra's doing. Or was it? If you're new to my channel, go on and hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay current on all my Star Wars content releases. Also, hit the thumbs up to show your love for what I do. With that said, let's get into it. There are things some Star Wars fans don't like about the Disney acquisition of the brand. But there is no mistake that most are in agreement that it was a good move to bring Grand Admiral Thrawn back. But at the end of Rebels was the last time chronologically that we see him. Ezra Bridger summoned the Purrgil to pull himself and Thrawn from Lothal while Ezra's friends liberated the planet. It was a success, and it was presumed that the space whale squid thingies took the rivals to the unknown regions. This is an area of space that exists beyond the outer rim. It is largely unexplored by the core worlds of the galaxy, but has many inhabited planets. The unknown regions are a dangerous place, but that is where Thrawn is from. During his time as an Imperial naval officer, Thrawn saw many setbacks. True, he was the only alien to be in such a high position in the Empire, but from the beginning it was an uphill battle with the prejudice that existed in the ranks. Being a favorite of the Emperor really helped his ascension, and he proved his worthiness time and time again. But he also had setbacks from his superiors. That's not even to mention the thorn in his side caused by the rebel cell in his sector. Grand Admiral Thrawn was in charge of the TIE Defender program and was responsible for its development and procuring the funds needed to make the Defenders mainstream in the Imperial Navy's fighter wings. But he had opposition. That opposition began in the form of Director Krennic, the developer and overseer of the Project Stardust, or the Death Star as it later came to be known. But Krennic wasn't a problem for Thrawn. He could outsmart him easily. The Death Star funds were in direct rivalry with the TIE Defender funds. One would have to take the precedence over the other, and the one being defunded would fail. But there was one other Imperial that stood in Thrawn's way: Grand Moff Tarkin. Tarkin was cunning and genius and a favorite of the Emperor. He also was opportunistic and would attach himself to anything that he could see benefiting him and his career. On the surface, he stood behind Thrawn and his TIE Defender program. The new breed of TIE fighters promised a dominance in the skies against any opposition. They were advanced beyond anything the Empire or the Republic had used. Equipped with shields and stronger weapons, the TIEs were virtually unstoppable. But they were doomed from the start. The Emperor liked bigger, planet-killing weapons, and Grand Moff Tarkin knew this. So Tarkin began his venture in toppling Krennic as the head of the Death Star program, from the shadows and out of sight of Thrawn. Being the strategist he was, Thrawn knew these TIE fighters would be the victory they needed in the skies. But bigger was always better to the Emperor, and Tarkin understood this. The TIE Defenders became defunded and lost all ground. Production stopped and the idea was virtually scrapped. This was a huge disappointment to Thrawn. How dare they not listen to the most brilliant strategists in the Empire? All because the Emperor liked watching his officers fight for power. Thrawn could have beaten Krennic on his own, but with Tarkin working against him in the background, he didn't stand a chance. Once the Defender project was defunded, Thrawn was left with his next objective: get rid of the rebel threat on Lothal and wipe out the insurgents. But these were no ordinary rebels. They had a couple Jedi in their ranks. So no matter the planning and strategic advantage, all is as the Force wills it, especially when there are Force-sensitive working against him. But this wasn't Thrawn's first encounter with Jedi. At one point during the Clone Wars, he had worked alongside Anakin Skywalker himself. The Jedi fascinated him. After his encounter, he had studied the Jedi and their ways. That's how Thrawn was. When he didn't understand something, instead of fearing it or remaining oblivious to it, he would study every aspect of that thing. We saw this multiple times, most notably in the case of Hera Syndulla and the Twi'lek race. He even told one of his officers, in order to understand someone, you have to study all aspects of them, not just their military capabilities, but their culture and their art. It's how he gained tactical advantage, and it worked. So that was no less the case for the Jedi. Without having a working relationship with the Force, he was still able to understand the Jedi and their tactics. He seemed to be one step ahead of them at all times. So why did he still lose to the Jedi? Was it because all is as the Force wills it? Or was it something else? Like I said, he had been hitting walls when it came to his equals and his superiors. He was being stonewalled in his projects, underestimated by his peers, and discriminated against throughout the Empire. None of it seemed to get him to the surface. But we all know, someone can only take so much of that. Thrawn looked for a way out without seeming treasonous. His allegiance had already been questioned by a few, including Darth Vader and the Emperor himself. With the growing tension against Thrawn and his pull to return to his home, it is possible that he manipulated Ezra into helping him escape, without Ezra being aware of the plan. Like I said before, Thrawn would learn about his opponents, a gift not many in the Empire had. His opponent at this time happened to be a Jedi, a faction he admired through Anakin Skywalker and learned to respect. Even if they were his enemy after the Empire takeover of the Republic, my theory is simple. Thrawn needed the help of the Jedi Ezra Bridger to get him out of his current situation and return home. Not just the prejudice, but also the betrayal of Tarkin caused him to become disillusioned with the Empire. Tarkin seemed like an ally, but turned out to be out for himself, and Tarkin saw an opportunity in the Death Star project to advance himself and had no loyalties to anyone. This is all contrary to Thrawn's own morals. He was questioned about his allegiance numerous times and was called treasonous. Now, favor was given to a man who only sought his own power and advancement, someone who only had allegiance to himself, and the Empire rewarded Tarkin's behavior. So Thrawn set the trap for Ezra to get him out of the known regions of the galaxy and to his area of birth. Why do I think this? Because, like I said, Thrawn knew his adversaries inside and out. He was a brilliant strategist and could manipulate any situation to his favor and to victory. There is really no way a young Jedi in training could have outsmarted a man who had decades of experience in leadership and a success rate of that of Thrawn's. Ezra was inexperienced next to Thrawn, and Thrawn used Ezra's arrogance to help him. Had Ezra not went with Thrawn and the Purrgil, it would not have looked legitimate enough for Thrawn, and the Empire would have hunted him down. Now, Thrawn is back to the unknown regions, and he took the Empire's threat with him. And let's see how this goes in the Book of Boba Fett and the Ahsoka series. Let's see what happens with Thrawn. So I ask, what do you think? Did Ezra win by taking Thrawn to the unknown regions, or did Thrawn win by manipulating Ezra into removing him from a volatile empire? Or is everything the way it seems? I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, so drop a comment below. And if you're new to the Star Wars Fanatic channel, go on and hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications to be alerted when I release new content. Also, hit the thumbs up to show your love and help boost the channel one click at a time. Thank you for watching, and remember, this is the way, the only way.